We are talking about the one skills that decides if your business survives or dies. Sales.
AI cannot build a relationship with you. Maybe it can. There's people in Japan that there's stories where they married their AI. I'm like, stop using ChatGPT because this needs to be in your voice. Because if the voice does not match the script, then there's a disconnect, and the customer is going to feel that. Your personal experiences are true to you. They're not posted on the internet. They're not posted all over on social media, but those experiences is what creates credibility with your clients. And so in sales, we talk about like it usually takes about 8 follow-ups to land that client. And so I always say, regardless of who the customer is, they better feel like $1 million when they're dealing with you, because that's what's going to make them want to buy. And if it's not today, if you make them feel like $1 million, when they have that money, they still will come back. They talk about like we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So listen more, talk less. The best communicators are, let's say, babies, because they have no filters and they know how to read people. They know how to get what they want. They know how to make you smile. So many amazing things that kids can do, that they're such great teachers to show us how to be a good sales agent.
So hello, welcome to the Samir Show. Today's episode is totally different. We are not talking about the motivations. We are talking about the one skills that decides if your business survives or dies. Sales. My guest built a logistic company out of a storage trailer in a farm. No office, no funding, just a cold calls and greet. Today, he runs the logisticsales.com, a free platform that's taught thousands of people how to sell. If you have ever been scared of making a cold calls, scared to ask the closure, or scared you are not built for the sales, I think this episode is definitely for you. Daman Grewal, welcome to the Samir Show. How are you, sir?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for the viewers that are listening today. I totally appreciate your time, which is always precious. So let's hopefully we can get as much value out of this as possible for people that are starting businesses, people that are getting into sales or even in sales, and figuring out, hey, what does it make to click and move forward in that process to close the customer?
Right now, everybody's scared of the AI, and the peoples are really, that they are trying to implement live agents, the agentic AI. Everyone talk about the agentic AI and everything, right? So the peoples are really get scared of that AI is gonna replace them, right? So my first question that if AI becomes better than every salesperson tomorrow, would you still teach sales and why?
100%, yeah, because a lot of sales is the soft skills,
Hmm.
the relationship building. AI cannot build a relationship with you. Maybe it can. There's people in Japan that there's stories where they married their AI, counterpart. And so yeah, we see all sorts of crazy things. But it's that relatability. But then even then it's not really talking to you. So
Hmm.
AI is getting to a point where the voice is being perfected and the conversations are getting there to that point. But really, I mean, how can you trust AI when it comes to operations?
Hmm.
And how can AI give you that surety that it's going to handle any situation and have a fix for you? Because it's again at the end of the day, it's just a robot, right? It's electronic, and electronic can't really come to your house and fix your kitchen sink. But it could definitely help in the assistance of that, where it can organize. But then again, when delays happen or anything else happens, now AI has to kind of pivot as well. It has to have those inputs.
Hmm.
If it doesn't have the inputs, like, oh, hey, you know what? The guy's delayed over at this place, and now, it's not going to make that appointment time. If it doesn't get the input, it can't really give the output. So AI is a great assistant, but
Hmm.
it can't really take away from the physical jobs, the relationship jobs, where again, you're going to have to get good with operational side of things. But it will replace, the stuff that's automated already. So if we have a repetitive task, whether it's searching customers, finding leads, maybe doing mass mailouts, connection pieces where it's following up with your customers. Sure, it could do a lot of that, but will it be able to go sign a contract for you?
Hmm.
Probably not. Will it be able to negotiate for you in the terms that you want? Because at the end of the day, people want to know that you have experience and they want to
Hmm.
build that trust with you to know that you can do the job.
Hmm.
And there's something that's usually missing between that connection piece. I'll can give you an example of this as well. There's a person on LinkedIn that reached out to me today as well. And the same message came over on LinkedIn. And I'm like, hey, you already sent me this message. I go, by any chance, is this message automated? And he's like, nope. And I'm like, come on, it's almost word for word the same thing you just sent me, like last month or a couple of weeks ago. And I'm just
Mm,
like, how can this guy tell me that it's not automated?
mm.
And so unless he's copying and pasting it, so
Yeah,
but there's
exactly.
and you want some sort of honesty there. You want to
Mm,
have some sort of transparency to
mm.
build that relationship. Because if I can't trust you, how am I going to work with you?
Right. So according to you, that trust, the bonding, the relationships are the most important. That's the human can do, not
Hmm.
AI, right? But what's the one thing that human close does that AI will never replicate, apart from that the connections and the relationship as you talk about?
Yeah.
Any other things that AI can't do?
Yeah, I can't give you that emotion.
Mm,
So if I'm smiling with you
mm,
here, it's not going to be able to replicate that same emotion right away. Maybe down the road,
mm,
there's a possibility that's going to start picking up on those cues,
mm,
or it's going to be able to read people so well that it's going to be able to mimic emotion. It's going to be able to read you so well where it could, give you that back. But the other place that I look at it too is, a lot of times expertise. Even though you could ask, like for me, it's like playing with Chat GPT. When I
mm,
play with Chat GPT and maybe I'm asking it sales advice, sure, it can give you the basics and the foundations, but can it really get specific? And so that's the thing where sometimes I see the disconnect. I'm like, even with our sales reps, when we see sales reps, I'm like, hey, stop. I can tell when it's a Chat GPT script. I'm like, stop using Chat GPT because this needs to be in your voice.
mm,
Because if the voice does not match the script, then there's a disconnect, and the customer is going to feel that. It's going to say, hold on, how come you were talking to me like this first and now you sound totally different?
mm,
And so again, if you can, it has to match identically. So people want to know that they're working with somebody reliable, especially if you feel like if you're paying a lot of money for something and you're not getting that service back and someone's not really understanding you, sometimes there's a frustration that can build up. And so sometimes, like, even when I get phone calls, or maybe a lot of the viewers here, when you guys get phone calls, there's usually that slight little pause.
mm,
As soon as you know there's a slight little pause, you're like, okay, this is a sales pitch coming up, and you're like, click. you don't want to, you don't want to answer that phone call. There's a fear that comes in because you're like, okay, I can't go through 10 phone calls a day with somebody trying to sell me a cell phone plan or trying to clean my ducts for me or whatever that may be. So there's a way to connect with somebody to, again, lighten the mood.
mm.
There's a way to connect to somebody to show your expertise and experience and to add value to somebody. And it's hard for AI to typically do that right away. But there's a sense of comfort that you get when you're talking to somebody, and they can start relating to exactly what you're talking about.
Mm.
Or they could talk about a scenario. So again, your personal experiences are true to you. They're not posted on the internet. They're not posted all over on social media, but those experiences is what creates credibility with your clients. And so
That's
that's what
true.
people want to know, like especially from founders. So especially when you're building a business, people always want to know who's in charge and who's going to take care of me if something goes sideways.
Mm,
And so again, it's that person that's that founder that really becomes, that piece of the puzzle where it really helps build trust because whenever they talk, doesn't matter how you talk, but it's a matter of just saying, okay, well, hey, it probably sounds like he is a software engineer because he's definitely talking about things that I don't understand. Or if I'm a software engineer on my side, and again, if we're talking about the different programming languages, then we can have a conversation based on that language. And then if you don't truly understand who I am as a buyer, and you're speaking, let's say, programming language, and I'm not comprehending it, and you continue to do so, how are you going to know that, hey, is Damon following along? Or am I just automating this message and it's coming out any which way? But then again, we're not really talking on the same language because I'm speaking something totally different. So you have to really watch for that feedback cue from your customer. That listening part, that feedback loop is what we call that. And so if we truly understand, who we're talking to, then we know, okay, all right, hey, he's understanding this. He's not, he's following along. And then we just want to go ahead and have that conversation. But again, I don't want to waste someone's time. And that's the biggest thing. Like even for me as, being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, I rarely want to have my time wasted. I just rather have people get straight to the point. I want to know if you can do the work. I want to know what it's going to cost me, and whatever other questions I may have.
But don't you think that suppose the AI is right now is so much of changing it happens that you already taught the sales about the last years? I'm talking about the examples that one of the examples that I recently saw on Instagram that they have created a kind of a live agent. Okay. And they released that product into that Indian market. As you know now, how the Indian markets, they are if you are Hindi speaking, then you have the
Mhm.
versatile or you have that so many versions of Hindi that you can speak, right? In India
Yeah.
also. So that that the retailers, that the shopkeepers, they are just calling that live agent and they are just trying to give that orders that what they want for this next month. So they do the live calls and they is trying to like a conversation into that Hindi, but it's a different
Yeah.
version of Hindi. That's how that local people will talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
But still, that AI agent is so capable that it accuracy is more than 95%. That it
Hmm.
took almost the 95% accurate order, and it was really
Yeah.
successful.
So order taking is a repetitive task. So when we
Hmm.
see customer service, order taking, all these tasks can be automated, and
Hmm.
definitely AI is a strength in those capacities. But when we look at again expertise, a little bit different. But again, when
Hmm.
we talk about repetition, things like order taking, things like scheduling, basic customer service answers, then AI is perfect. I mean, you don't want to be spending
Hmm.
human capital on those unless, depending on the type of service that you have. If
Hmm.
you're a higher ticket item, you may want to have that customer service, person.
Hmm.
But if you're again a low ticket item, saving costs for your clients is usually key. And then again, automating a lot of that process is probably ideal because at the end of the day, it's about the consumer. How do we serve the consumer the best? How do we give them the best customer service? And as long as we put the consumer first and their needs first, on a low ticket item, they're just looking for the cheapest price sometimes.
Hmm.
And even they understand, okay, well, what am I getting? Am I paying, like my life savings towards something? Or am I, is it something that I could absorb that even if the AI makes a mistake or again, it's not gonna break my bank.
That's true. Okay. Now, suppose if I don't have any experience, I have zero experience in sales, I have zero contact. Can you just walk me through my first 7 days, not say hour by hour, but day by day, that what should be my
Mhm.
strategy for sales?
For sure, yeah. So mindset is always number one.
Hmm.
That's the first thing that we always want to work on is do we believe it's possible for us? So what we do in the first couple of days is we just show you, okay, here's what sales opportunities look like. And we want to help you build your why or your
Hmm.
reason for wanting to do this. And then we also want to do it in a way where it's going to feel good to you. So alignment, you want to get into alignment with whatever product or service that you may be selling. And you want to learn about that as much as possible. And the
Hmm.
way that we try to teach sales from our side is to do it in a way that we're going to be in service to our clients. So ethical sales,
Hmm.
not selling somebody something that they don't want, that they don't need, but really just saying, hey, can we really help people genuinely? And then so again, fixing that mindset first so it doesn't get devastating right away. And then also the mindset of saying, okay, well, let's take a look at the pricing on this item. If it's low ticket sales, sure, we'll probably get more hits on it. But if it's a high ticket item, okay, there might be a longer sales process here. So we definitely want to get you into that right mindset, give you the right type of training to allow you to understand what you're going to be going through
Hmm.
so you can handle it. And some of that looks like, what are the common objections that we're going to face? So usually each product or service has about five to 10 maximum, usually objections that come up. Oh, I don't have the money. It's too expensive. I don't have time right now. So some of these common ones, I already have something. And so I'm in a contract for so many years, but there's so many things that will come up. Or, now is probably not the right time for me. I'm just too busy. So a lot of these things will show up in sales. So it's like, okay, well, how do we handle those objections?
Hmm.
What's our reply going to be? Because we don't want to send you into a sales and face objections that you're not going to have answers for. So we'll give you the basics and say, okay, let's just go over the basic, objections, have the answers ready for those questions so that, when you go into a conversation, you at least have something to say. And hopefully you've done enough research on your product or on your service where you can handle the basic questions. And then everything else beyond that is just, being honest with the client and saying, hey, you know what? Let me find that information out for you and let me get back to you, within a reasonable amount of time. And
Mm,
so whether that's putting somebody on hold and saying, hold on, let me just quickly find out for you. And then, yeah, just having that answer, asking the managers, asking somebody nearby, looking it up on Google or whatever whatever it may be, and then give somebody a reply. And so that's the things that we want to work on first is just that customer focus, how to research that customer, how to study that customer before you even make that call, depending again on what type of item you're selling them.
mm.
So typically, I work a lot with medium to high ticket pricing when it comes to sales. And so over there, we really want to research first and say, okay, how are we a good fit for this client? And if we don't, again, if we're just focused on ourselves and saying, hey, we're great at doing, X, Y, Z, then we're probably not going to get the sale until we put ourselves in the client's shoes and really understand it from their perspective. And that's where we can make the connection piece. Because if we don't understand them and we're expecting them to understand us, it's probably the wrong philosophy, right? So we
Mm.
want to understand each other. And it's our job to understand them first because we're actually approaching them. They're not approaching us. And so again, unless it's inbound sales, different story, right? So then you typically know what they're going to be asking you about and you'll be ready to answer those questions. Inbound sales is a little bit easier. Outbound sales, you got to do a little bit more work.
But many sales experts says that many times the customer even doesn't know. They don't know that what they need. So still that peoples are trying to sell them. So at that time, what should they do? That still they want to sell their product?
For sure. So what we want to do is we want to ask a couple qualifying questions to somebody and to see if they really need it.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, we want to determine ourselves, and this is more about going into ethical sales, is we want to determine ourselves if we are really a good solution for that person.
Hmm.
So I have companies that are in transportation and in logistics. And so there's certain things that we specialize in, which we would recommend. And other ones, we just say, hey, we're probably not the best fit for you. So it's okay to tell somebody to say, hey, thank you for your time, but here's a couple companies that I can recommend. So I'll still try to add value to them,
Mm-hmm.
even though because I'm taking their time, I want to give them something in return. And so just having that type of mindset, like don't sell something that someone doesn't need, but ask the right qualifying questions. If you feel it inside of you that someone could really benefit from your service, and like I know for example, like if you just opened up your tech company, you
Mm-hmm.
know that hey, I can build softwares and my team is really good at building these softwares. It's our duty to show somebody that we can really do what we say we can because this happens in sales a lot too is a lot of people will overpromise and underdeliver. So for you to give justice to your company and to the service that you provide, it's our duty to be able to try to explain that vision to somebody and how it's going to be important to them. So that's the value. Like what value do I really want to bring you? And
Mm-hmm.
so again, a lot of people will talk about sell them on the outcome. Or, what I would say is just find out truly what they need. Sometimes they just need to know that, hey, you're reliable. And then, a lot of times I've taken chances on people, even if they're brand new in tech, to say, hey, I'll give you an opportunity because you just seem like you're an honest person. And I'm willing to take a chance on someone that's honest versus someone that's trying to sell me something that I don't really trust.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, that's that human component of it where we're just evaluating each other. And each person has different buying patterns. If we understand that, some people are better through demonstration. Some people like facts and figures. Some people trust the person versus, anybody else. It's like a handshake deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's how we have that conversation with somebody and if we're truly listening to what that person wants. Some people just say, hey, send me an email on it. I don't want to have this conversation right now. And then, does the email really give them what they're asking for? So really listening to that client to give it to them. And then, there's the other part too. We don't have to do it all in one sale
Mm-hmm.
or in one conversation. And so in sales, we talk about like it usually takes about 8 follow-ups to land that client. So how can I give them little bits of information instead of overwhelming him with a lot of information? And so these are things that we want to take into consideration and say, hey, we're trying to build that relationship. I don't need you to buy something right now. especially if it's tech, right? It's usually a large ticket item. It's usually a big investment. Usually going to take time from both parties to get something developed. So we want to let them know what that process looks like and how we're going to work with them, and maybe how we're going to take the risk out of, investing in us when it comes to that process. Is there something that we could build and develop and show them beforehand, before even, asking for the sale, and say, hey, we just want to help you in the beginning. Is this something that, you're willing to take a look at if we start building it out on our end? If it's something that you like, is this something that you would like to proceed with? So again, asking right qualifier questions.
mm,
What is your budget? Are you looking to develop anything in the next 6 months to a year? Again, ask them what their business is, but know what their business is. Research the business and say, okay, sit with the team beforehand if you're going to make that sales call, and say, how can we look at this business and how can we help them? Let's try to understand what departments are in that business. Let's also try to understand who the key decision makers could be, whether we look on LinkedIn, or again, we're looking at the different titles that they may have on LinkedIn too, to say, okay, how are they structured as an organization? Are we talking to a branch office or are we talking to a head office? Who's going to be making decisions here? Oh, okay. If they have multiple offices, okay, how do we connect? What's the connectivity look like right now in their organization? Which part of their systems can we automate? Is there a solution that we have for this type of company? And so really researching it, in the background, whether you look at magazine articles, whether you get to know their industry really well, instead of just doing the standard pitch, like, hey, we're an AI company, we can automate your processes. That doesn't mean anything. What processes will you automate? How will you automate them? How will it save them money or how will it make them money? Right? So if we go a couple steps further, that's how they get to truly see if that's a right solution for them. Because again, AI could be, hey, I'll just install Chat GPT into your computers and done. You got AI, right? So
right,
that could be
right.
like, what does it mean? So many, I get so many of those emails every single day.
Mm,
I'm an AI software company. If you're looking to develop something, or hey, we have this that could save you, money with your operations or your safety, and then it's like, okay, well, what are you gonna do? And then they
mm,
have no answer.
right. That many times they are trying to reach out the customers. They say that, oh, that I'm not interested, that we have already had similar kind of a vendors and we don't want to break the relationship with them. So at that time, in these situations, what should they tell to the customers and how they build up the relationship?
Look at ways to say, hey, you know what? If you have any questions or if anything arises with your current vendor, we'd love to be a good backup for you.
Hmm.
So it's acknowledging what they're saying. You have to acknowledge what they're saying to you and really be like, yeah, hey, yeah, that's not a problem. Like we respect your relationships with your current vendors. By the way, here's a couple strengths that we do have. If you have any questions or need anyone as support, we're always here to help. Help if anything goes sideways. And anyone that's been through tech development knows that things can go like this at any time.
Hmm.
Because again, if your current vendor, like for example, we were building out another software, and throughout halfway through that project, there were some features that that company could not do for us, and they weren't honest with us. And just because they weren't honest with us, I broke that relationship and said, hey, you know what? This is something you guys should have told us a long time ago.
Hmm.
Right now, our trust is broken. So I'm willing to, cut the line there and say, okay, I can't go forward because this is just not with my business ethics. This doesn't follow, my way of doing business. I'm not going to work with somebody that's not fully honest. At that point, I know it's more of a money grab where they're just trying to get us to
Hmm.
pay the next invoice. And it's like, hold on, you're not even telling me the truth. Why would I
Hmm.
want to work with you? And so you don't see that sometimes later on. Or you run into situations where maybe that software wasn't built properly.
Hmm.
And now there's bugs in the software even after development. And now you're getting, to a frustration point. And so we've had this as well, with some of the boards that I've participated on. We've had people that have worked on projects for a year and a half, and then we've had to close those projects to start from brand new with a brand new vendor. And so, there's so many things that you can go along a situation until you run into that problem, and then you really understand that, okay, hey, you know what? Which company should we call now? And so
Hmm.
that's where we always say you have to stay memorable. And that's the key when it comes to, large ticket items like selling tech software or building something for somebody, is you want to stay memorable for that when they do have that issue, that you were the person that was always honest with them. You're the one that always showed that you listened to them. And then so that way you become a viable solution for them down the road. But your job in the meantime is to, stay in touch. It's like
All
planting
right.
those seeds. You have
Mm,
to keep planting seeds. And when you plant seeds, you can't just forget about them. You got to water them, you got to nurture them, you got to get rid of the weeds to
mm,
allow that seed to flourish. And that's usually the follow-up process. So if
mm,
you understand that sales isn't just, one and done, it's a continual process that you have to go through. There's a system involved. And so if we create that system, then we're going to be able to see, okay, can we follow it all the way through? And then if we understand, okay, from the other perspective is that anything can happen at any time, we need to be the first company that comes to mind when something falls apart somewhere else. So how do we
mm,
position ourselves in a way when we communicate to people and we're given an objection that we already have a vendor? Hey, not a problem, right? Be the smiling person to give them reassurance that, hey, that's okay. We hear this all the time. And by the way, a lot of people will come to us, a year down the road or 6 months down the road, let them know that you understand, right? And let them know some of the other issues that maybe people have faced in the past. Leverage it from your experience and say, okay, hey, this happens in this industry, but we'd love to, give you a free evaluation or even check your code if it has any current bugs or anything else that you need to know to
mm.
see, have they put in the right systems in place? Are they using the right type of technology stacks in your business? But if you want, something like this as a consultation, we're willing to come in and do it for free, and give you a recommendation on whatever it is. So different ways you can still add value and
Mm.
still build that relationship. The question is whether you're willing to do it.
Right. So according to you, that what are the top lead source that the people should go for this first client?
Where to find your leads, like where to find your
Yeah.
prospects.
Yeah.
Again, depends on which industry you want to go to. You really want to be clear with your client profile first. So when you
Mm,
talk to your team members, say, what industry are we going after first? Not everybody.
mm.
So the
Right.
more specific you are, then
So as you are in the logistics, let's go for the logistic company. That what are your
yeah.
top leads?
So for logistics, so now I want to take a look and say, okay, well, am I focused on truckload?
Mm-hmm.
Less than truckload, then there's different types of modes of trucking as well, which is whether it's overseas or containers, intermodal, refrigerated, dry, flatbed, oversized. So you have to really niche it down to, okay, which one do we want to start with first? Because each one has different challenges and different problems. Then
Mm,
you want to take a look at, okay, is it a regional company or is it an international company
mm,
or national company? Like which one is it? Which one are we going after? And then you want to again identify which problems and challenges that those type of companies have, and then start with that first. So it's really niching down. So once you niche down, something you can do is quick
mm,
website search. Okay, which companies fall into that category? Sometimes you could even ask, a chat GPT, it'll probably start spitting out lots of leads for you. When you start
mm,
with those leads, when you start researching them, what you're going to realize and you may realize is that there may be directories that they're a part of. So then every time you're looking up companies, just look on Google and say, okay, do we see more on LinkedIn? Do we see more on, different directories? So
mm,
there's a website called safersys.org in the US, and that
mm.
has all the motor carriers registered under that database. And so it gives you the phone numbers, it gives you contact details. And so maybe that's a good place to start. Or again, if you're going, you already have a list of people and you're trying to get specific on the names and the phone numbers, then maybe a Zoom Info, maybe Apollo. So there's, those lead capture companies as well that can give you that information up front. But it really depends. Like I always say, research the company. You can just go to their websites directly and have all the
Mm.
same information for free, and you don't have to spend thousands of dollars on, lead generation software. But then again, it depends on how you want to run that operation, how many people you have on that team, what type of resources you have available to you. But there's ways to do it for free.
So how do people get to know that the list they have created for the customers, right, or for the prospects, those are good enough, or they still need to work on how they make sure that okay, it's enough to get call now.
Mm. Good question. You call them, right? So depending on the type of responses you get, and you have to have a big enough sample size to be able to ask the questions.
Mm.
And then typically what I'll do with agents is I'll sit down with them and see how they're asking their questions, because even that makes a difference. If you're not asking the right type of questions or you're not even getting past the gatekeeper, then we want to see, okay, well, where are we getting stuck in that process to
Mm.
be able to evaluate it and say, hey, are we even reaching the right people? First of all, like we could be calling 100 companies, but if we don't talk to the right person, then we missed it all.
Mm.
That was a waste of time. But then if we are talking to the right person, okay, what are we saying? And what are they understanding when we're talking? Or, what's their response back to us? So we're listening to all those components to see the entire process, to see, okay, hey, is there a proper conversation here? Are they truly understanding what we're saying? And then are they giving us a proper response based on what we're saying? So that's going to give you that evaluation tool of, do they understand it and they just don't need it? And then you just say, okay, well, maybe we pivot to a different customer then, a different type of client profile, a different avatar of a customer that we can go approach that may
Mm.
actually need what we're talking, what we're trying to sell. Or, that feedback will also tell you too, people, if you make, 100 calls or 1,000 calls, in that industry, there's going to be a lot of feedback of what people do want as well. So if your objective is okay to get that feedback and make a product that's going to work for the clients, then listen to what they're really saying. And you
Okay.
can ask them like, oh, you may not have a need for this, but is there anything else that we could solve the problem for? And so if you ask and they trust you, if you build that trust in that meantime, then they truly will be able to tell you, at least out of 1,000 calls, somebody will be able to give you some feedback and you just say, okay, is that true for many companies?
Mm.
And that's a success of building softwares. And I've been a part of some of the Microsoft meetings as well, where, they have network meetings and they get a bunch of business owners together.
Mm.
And okay, so Microsoft gets people together in a meeting. And this is before, Chat GPT and some of these other programs. Now everyone puts all their problems into Chat GPT, so it's great because they get all the models and they've invested in these companies, so they get to learn about all the problems people are having, so they can
Mm.
find solutions for it. But before they would network people and they would go around the room and they would give them, free dinner, free drinks, whatever it is to bring business owners together. And they only had one question when they would walk around.
Mm.
What problems are you facing in your business?
Mm.
Right? Because that was the gold. That
Mm.
was the whole point of having these networking events, is to partner with other companies to find out what their clients might be going through and what they could solve for to create the next software. And so again, it's seeing, okay, who else is having similar problems, and the person that's, able to identify those problems and, create a solution for it, those are going to be the ultimate winners. And when you could do it for, again, many people versus a few.
Mm. That's true. Right now, as you talk about the cold calls, that we have to get the calls and what try to listen that what the problems they are facing. But my problem is right now, as you know, that every person's has a attention span around the more not more than 7 seconds. Okay. Now, when you make a cold call, that within a 10 seconds of a cold call that decides if they hang up or listen. So, what's your first word within the 10 seconds that will stay on the call?
So I do my research first a lot of times, and I'll just ask straight for the person. Hi, I'm looking to speak to Samir. Can I speak to Samir, please?
Hmm.
That's it,
Yes, please.
right? And then
Okay.
when I
Hmm.
get to you, then okay, now there's the next 7 seconds. And then I'll be like, hey Samir, I'm just looking to sell you, or hey Samir,
Hmm.
I'm just looking to introduce our company to you. Can I just quickly get your email address?
Hmm.
By the way, we're a software company, and this is what we specialize in. And I just want to send you some information to see if it might be a good fit for you. Something very simple, right? I'm not going to
Hmm.
over. And then what I'm listening for is to hear their reaction.
Hmm.
And then I realize, okay, are they willing to talk? Are they
Hmm.
curious? Did I spark some interest? And then even if they sound confused, then I'll say, okay, how can I quickly pivot? Maybe I'll have two, three names more
Hmm.
from that company. And I'll be like, oh, hey, sorry, I'm not sure if you're the right person. But if it's okay, can I send you an email with this information?
Hmm.
Is that something that you would handle, or would that be somebody else on your team? I notice you have, Jack, Brad, and so and so
Hmm.
Sam on your team. And I'm not sure which one I should have sent this email to, but I'm
Hmm.
hoping you could just help me out. So I would just, ask them for a little bit of help. I'd let them know if I'm, depending on how confident I am in that conversation. But
Hmm.
it's okay to ask them for help instead of trying to pretend like I know everything. and try to pitch him like he's the person. So I'd be a little bit, cognizant of that. And then I would just see which one works. Sometimes
Mm,
when I'm doing my sales pitch, the first one, two, three may not be good. But as I go through the flow and I keep doing more, more, and more and do the repetitions, then I get into my groove and I know, okay, this is working, this isn't working. And so you want to shift depending on what's happening. Maybe you pay attention to current events or you're familiar with their industry. And then you can have little icebreakers in there too
mm.
and say, hey, I'm not too sure if you've seen, the latest AI agents come out. I'm not sure if you deal with that in your company. So again, depending on what you know about the company, but I want to relate it to them. That's what that's
So does your opening change that if that person knows already about your company?
yeah. So if they know about the company, then that's a follow up,
Mm,
right? It's just saying, hey, Samir, I just talked to you, a couple weeks ago, and then you just create that conversation. But I
mm,
really want to remind them of what that first conversation was and where we left it to really
mm,
create that familiarity because a lot of people will not remember.
mm,
And so if I create the familiarity and I remind him of the words that he spoke to me, then I'm gonna be able to carry that conversation a little bit forward. And so it just means that I was listening. It means that I'm being respectful to what the person was saying, that I'm listening to what they had to say last time. And then so it helps build that rapport, right? So that's what we want to build long term to have stronger relationships. Because like who do you want to hang out with? The people that
mm,
listen to you or the people that are like, hey, what's your name again? Who are you? Right? So it's up to us as a salesperson to be really receptive to what that person's saying and really, make good notes,
mm,
especially if you've spoken to them before. And then, like I said, if we analyze the industry and see what we could solve for as a solution, then I'd rather pitch that right away.
mm,
Like when we're in trucking and logistics, I'm pretty straightforward. I'm like, hey, we run all over Canada, USA. If I was looking at a company in Denver, I'd be like, hey, we specialize from shipments from Denver and the Colorado area coming back into Western Canada. Are you guys shipping currently to any of the major retailers or wholesalers in Western Canada that we can help you with? So I'm being
mm,
more specific about what we do. I'm not going to say that we do anything and everything. So the more specific I am, then I stay memorable. The more
mm,
general I am, I'm not going to be memorable for them.
mm,
And then I'll be more specific to them. If I already know that they ship to a Costco or a Walmart, I'll be like, hey, I noticed that, I've seen your products around in Costco and Walmart. We actually deliver to all their distribution centers. And they'll name off the distribution centers and say, hey, this is what we do. Maybe I'll relate it to other companies that we do similar work for.
mm,
Uh, you know, I'd highlight the equipment and, whatever challenges that mode possesses for them. And then I give them a couple solutions. Oh, hey, we're really good at, if I know it's like Walmart or Costco, I'll be like, hey, we're really good at delivering on appointment times. We have yards situated in Calgary and in Vancouver that we can get to the distribution centers, regardless of whichever day those delivery dates are set for. Yeah, we're flexible. Yeah. If we need to
mm.
hold it in our yard and then deliver it on the day of, that's not a problem. We're not going to charge you for that delivery.
Oh,
Right. So
okay.
whatever it is, like
Mm,
there's so many things that we could get into, but it's
mm,
more detailed because the detailed I am, the more they know that he's already doing it
mm,
and he's familiar with the process. And maybe it's about, the booking, the scheduling, working with the distribution centers directly. So they're like, okay, how does that relieve my headache?
mm,
Would I rather trust somebody that doesn't know that system or someone that already does? And so that's what they're looking for and saying, okay, well, what else, do you have to offer them? Do you understand what challenges they may have
mm.
and what solutions you could offer them based on those challenges?
Okay, that makes sense. But every time that people are trying to shoot out an email to the customers or to the prospects, many times that people are trying to find that exact subject line, that what should be that subject line that they can immediate get attention. So according
Mhm.
to you, suppose if you're trying to reach out the prospect but they are not responding or they say that we'll call you back again, what's your subject line over the email?
Again, something that's important to them. It's that important piece. So if I'm talking about like, if I'm talking about like Colorado back to Western Canada, that would be my title. Refrigerated services, maybe uh, Colorado back to Western Canada.
Okay.
That's it, right? So just something straightforward. I don't want to confuse them too much, but I want to say, okay, yeah, will that ring a bell to them?
Mm.
So for example, if we have a lunch appointment, I would just put lunch appointment, 12:15 p.m. Damon and Samir, right? So just something really quick that because as a busy executive, you're only
Mm.
gonna skim.
Mm.
If someone has too long of a sentence or it looks spammy, then most likely I'm gonna overlook it. I'm gonna be like, that probably doesn't relate to me. But if it has my name in it, or there's something in there that triggers me, that triggers my position and what I'm looking for, then I'm more likely to open it
Mm.
up. Because again, if you look at my inbox, there's thousands of emails that just never get opened. So even
Okay.
on LinkedIn, people send me LinkedIn messages. There's hundreds that just go unread because you're
Yeah,
just
I agree.
filtering because time is important. Yeah.
Right, I agree. In the LinkedIn, like right now that I'm getting more than, I say the more than thousands of message every day.
Okay. Well, you're
They
a
are,
popular
they are,
guy.
they are trying to like introduce their company. They are trying to sell their product every time, right?
Yeah. So that's
So,
the thing too, is sales can get very stale if it gets
mm,
repetitive. And
mm,
so it's about breaking those cycles.
mm,
And so even as a tech company, it's about, okay, hey, can I do something different from just making phone calls? Can I create, something that I could deliver to their door?
mm,
Is it, can I attend a networking event where they're visible? Can I attend their next golfing event? Can I attend their next association meeting? How do I
mm,
get in front of business leaders and have conversations with those type of people? So it's also about how much am I willing to invest into making that sale too,
mm,
especially again, medium to high ticket sales, because I know what the long-term value of that client is going to be. So it's about how do I get into proximity with those people. And
mm,
so that's another way to do it as well is invest into it, be confident into what you're offering and say, how can I position myself to put myself in front of people? Right.
mm.
And so sometimes it's just like saying, okay, well, maybe I'll just create a video to show somebody how we could directly help them. And
Okay.
the more personalization that goes into something, the more likelihood that someone's going to open it or take a look at it or even remember it. And sometimes that's just, again, building relationships. That's something that, again, AI has a hard time doing, but
Mm,
us as a human, we know what that human to human connection is, and we'll do the extra research and think of different ways to be able to do it. Unless you program, 10 different ways into AI, then maybe, yeah, whatever
mm,
process you use, maybe it can be automated. And again, looking at those different avenues to say, okay, well, what is everyone else doing and how can we do it a little bit differently? Or how do I like to, the biggest question I always ask is, how do I like to be sold to?
mm,
If I'm getting thousands of messages on LinkedIn, that's perfect because now I'm getting to see how other people are doing their sales. And I'm like, if I don't like this, then why would I be doing this to other people?
exactly. That's true.
Right.
Mm,
And then how can I make it different? Or, I guarantee you there's one message in LinkedIn that you've received that you've liked. And when you look at that message and you go, okay, what did that guy do? What did he
mm,
say? How did he get that reaction out of me?
mm,
How'd that one person that got me to respond to them? And I'm sure, you probably responded to somebody at least, right?
mm.
On LinkedIn.
Right. Mm,
So what I say is, okay, how'd that person get me to respond to them? What did they say? What was that key trigger? And so we
mm,
can learn a lot from the way that people sell to us. And we say,
right.
hey, if that made us react, then hey, if I do the same thing and I replicate this, then somebody else will probably react to me as well.
Mm. So
So it's that
suppose I
connection, right?
Yeah. So suppose I want to give the introductions of my company. I think that's the very basic, like introduction of techoriga.com, right? What my business is. That's very basic, and it's a boring subject title, so they can ignore, right? So I have to something like a hook that we all use in the reels, right? Something like a hook that we can use in the subject line. Okay. But according to you, what are the subject line that completely failed?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce my company to you. Da, 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 da. So, but it depends, right? Again, the one thing I've learned in sales is
Mm,
everything can work.
mm.
Everything can work, but again, your chances of how much it works
Okay.
varies based on how good your
Probability.
lines are. So
Mm,
even an introduction to your company can work.
mm,
If it's the same, subject line as anything. Like I'm pretty old school when it comes to sales, and I've gotten sales just from using a fax machine,
mm,
sending a fax to somebody. and getting the sale, and somebody saying, "I'm ready to do, 5 orders with you, 10 orders with you. Here's my monthly order list." And so I've seen it work in any which way.
Uh,
I've seen people send emails from abroad, not even based in North America, and
mm,
land, multi-billion-dollar clients
mm.
and have meetings with them with just an email. And
Okay.
so again, if you hit somebody at the right time and that's what they needed, then it could work. And that's
Mm,
the thing about understanding sales. But there's certain lines that will work better. So
mm,
again, it's up to you to say, okay, how much volume can I put out? And this is why people have A/B testing.
mm,
So A/B testing is saying, okay, let me try a certain sample here. Let me try a certain sample here. Let me try talking to people, right? So the more feedback that you're able to get based on the volume that you put out, then you're
mm,
going to be able to find the right slogans for your company, the right taglines for your company. You're going to see what works for a little while. And then sometimes it's about changing it even after, because sales is continuously changing as well. As soon as something gets too old, then the new thing comes out, then the next thing comes out. And so just finding out where people are in that process and just knowing, okay, hey, this one seems to work a little bit better. It's all about the experimentation process. And that's the best way to get the best results.
mm. But does the same line, I mean, say that does the same line work on the second email if the first one get ignored?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. So, I mean, anything can work. So the first time the guy might have been busy. The second time the person sees the same email, he's like,
Mm,
oh, I missed it last time. Let me see it again. And it depends. Is what time of the day do you catch somebody?
mm,
So again, is it during his peak time? Is it when he's relaxed?
mm,
When is that? What does that look like? So you
mm,
always have to picture yourself in that other person's shoes. And sometimes persistency works.
mm.
The person sees it in repetition. Well, at some point they're like, okay, I've seen this 6 times now. Maybe the seventh time I'm gonna open it.
According to you, that how the salespersons get motivated, because in a day that they are doing more than 100 calls in a day, but they are more than 80% they are got rejections, 80 to 90%, but how they still get motivated? Because the first call that you are trying to say, trying to do the call with that first customer and trying to call that 100 customers, the tone will be the different, because the
Mhm.
motivations get down. How that salesperson get motivated all the time that first call and the 100 calls should be the same one?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm glad you didn't say they failed 100% of the time. So
Hmm.
you said 80 or 90.
Yeah,
So when I
that's
see
right.
that, I'm like, hey, there's a 10-20% chance that the next guy's gonna buy. So when I look at just always spin it to the positive.
Hmm.
And sometimes, even one out of 1,000, if they land as a customer and you land that customer for the next 20 years,
Hmm.
imagine what that customer is worth to you. So it's about knowing that there's a numbers game always. But if you
Hmm.
look at it in a way where I'm planting seeds, and at any point when I'm planting seeds, I
Hmm.
know that at any moment something could sprout for me.
Hmm.
And the more seeds that I plant is going to keep me motivated. So you have to have a certain amount of passion for it, and you have to look at the positive side of it. The people that get weighed down by the negative, you're not going to do well in sales.
Hmm.
Because if you're losing energy, you're losing that focus, then you need to take a look at, okay, how am I setting up my foundation for the day? Am I eating properly? Am I taking care of my health? Am I in the right state of mind? Do I need to go take a break? What can I do to make myself feel better? Do I need to stand up? Maybe if I'm sitting down too long. So look at different aspects of, what am I going through first, and
Hmm.
then, letting people know, even as a manager or even as a owner, you want to let people know that, hey, this is okay. This is just part of the numbers. This is what our success rate looks like, and letting them know that, hey, 1 out of 100 is okay. 10 out of 100, amazing, right?
Hmm.
So give them the motivation to let them know that, hey, even if it's not, if we're 0 for 100 today, tomorrow, let's try to get one.
Hmm.
Then let's just see how we can keep building. And so that's what you want to really do, is encourage people, because at some point, the more reps that they put in, it's like going to the gym.
Hmm.
You may not look like you're the ideal body in one week, but you keep going after maybe 6 months or 3 months, you may have a pretty good outcome.
Hmm. That's true.
May not see it right away, but eventually you'll get there. Sometimes it takes a year. And that's the same thing in sales. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of time to figure it out. You got to figure out the right formulas, the right technique. For some people, they're better at humor. Some people are better at being more serious. Some people are better at being more technical. And there's all sorts of personalities. They all work.
Hmm.
And I think, the biggest thing is how do I do it from my authentic self? because the more real I am with people, the better I'm going to relate to them.
Mm,
And if I try to be somebody else in sales, that may not be the right fit because people might see through that because they want to talk to someone real.
mm,
Answers, for me, that's the biggest thing is honesty, transparency, and again, don't waste my time. Like, be quick.
mm, mm, mm,
And so for me, that's different. Some other people may want, a longer information. They may, who knows, right? Depends on where they are, who they are, what they have going on a day, and you just want to cater it to those people. And the good salesperson is going to have a different pitch for different people,
mm,
based on who they're contacting, how the response is from that person. So the more you get, the reps in, you're gonna start understanding, okay, this is this person's tonality. I should probably not stay here too long. Let's respect it. Let's call him back when he does have better timing,
mm.
and just be respectful of someone's situation. And that's the way to build a friendship is if you
Right.
truly understand somebody and respect them. Like it may not be the right time. They may be busy. They may be driving. They may have 100 things going on. But we could just quickly say, "Hey, I'm just looking to send this information over. If now's not a good time, I can call back."
Okay.
And then just be willing to walk away to come back. You always want to leave the door open to be able to come back. And the worst thing is if you just keep going and the person's upset, then good luck trying to ever get back in
You're
there.
gonna lose forever.
Yeah, because once you upset somebody, it's hard unless you just apologize right away and say, I'm so sorry. I probably shouldn't have asked that last question to you.
Mm,
I just want to be really respectful. Is there a good time that I can call back?
mm. So you are in the industry, I think, more than 15 to 20 years, right? That maybe that you have heard your more than thousands of calls of your salespersons. So what are the common mistakes they made during the calls that people are really get ignored?
Yeah, biggest one is not listening.
Not listening to the
Yeah.
customers. Okay.
So that's one of the simplest ones is just not listening. The second one is maybe pitching the wrong person. So a lot of people will
Mm,
start pitching the person that picks up the phone is you're not really getting to the right person, or they're getting stuck with the gatekeeper and they're not learning how to get past the gatekeeper. So those are some of the common ones that you'll see in the beginning.
mm. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Now, according to you, that what's the actual movement? I mean, say that what's the actual movement that deal is really ready to close versus still it needs more time to close that deal.
So typically you'll have some questions that you could ask to move the sale forward. Sometimes it's
Mm,
about, how quickly are you looking to get started?
mm,
When would you like this moved, for example? When would you like to start? So just asking a simple question like that,
mm,
it just allows you to understand where somebody is at that thinking scale. And there's probably a couple of qualifier questions that you could probably ask depending on which industry you're in.
mm.
And then, yeah, you would be able to gauge that. And then you have to know when to close at that moment. And sometimes, they'll tell you themselves. And sometimes you have to ask the qualifying question. So it depends on how your sales process looks in that format.
Okay. This is my example. Okay, that many paint companies are coming to my home to paint my house. Okay. So that technique that mostly they are used that they are giving you the timeline.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So
when you
so
are
yeah,
expecting to do the colors for the whole home, when you're expecting, can I come tomorrow? Can I come to the next week? They are just giving you the timeline. They are just bound to it. So you are just forcing them to give you answer.
yeah. So there's two ways to do that. One is you could presume the close, right? So that's what
Hmm,
they call that is presume the close and just know that they're going to get started with you immediately.
hmm,
Another way to do that is say, hey, I can show you my calendar right now. Our next bookings are available on this date. Is this something? So you can ask a qualifying question like that too. So there's different ways that you could be able to show that, especially if you have somebody right in front of you.
hmm,
And again, at that point, you want, the more you can engage with that client and really show them that they do one is have the problem, and then you have the right solution for them. Whether it's a walk around the house, whether it's showing them different aspects of what the paintwork needs to be, whatever that looks like. But again, people are able to gauge it based on how many nods you can get from somebody. You'll start understanding through that conversation as you're
hmm.
going through the quoting process because they obviously want to know what the pricing is. So you're gonna get those indicators from somebody, and you just want to be mindful of that to see, okay, are they truly interested or are they just looking for a quote at the moment?
Hmm.
Will they want to move right ahead? So there's indicators that will come up during that process. They may ask you themselves, right? So,
Mhm.
if we were to book this with you, when would you, how long of a time frame do you think it would take to paint this house, et cetera, whatever that project looks like. But they would start asking you some of those qualifiers as well.
Okay. So in your career that do you feel that you did close your deal too early, but after that you feel like it was a mistake? And if it did, that why do you feel that why did I do that early closer?
Early close should be a good thing, no?
No, that's true. But sometimes that people are forcing to do the early closer, but sometime after that time that you feel that why did I do mistake? Why should I force them to close that deal so early?
Mhm.
That maybe that some research was missing at that time.
So again, we go back to like ethical sales.
Hmm.
And if we've been in that position where somebody closed us too quickly,
Hmm.
and then we had buyer's remorse, is what they call that, when we
Right.
buy something and we're like, oh man, why did we buy this thing?
Exactly.
So that's the whole thing about, okay, was it really ethical?
Hmm.
And so that's the question that I have. So I don't believe in that type of sales, nor do we teach that type of sales, because it's more about the human connection piece of saying, hey,
Hmm.
it needs to be a win-win situation.
Hmm.
This is what I'm always trying to teach when we come at what we do in logistics sales, is teach from a place where we're always in service to somebody. In service means we're offering compassion, we're really taking the time to understand somebody, and we want to make sure that they know the benefits of it so that it's a win-win of what we do. And that can happen in an early close, but even if it's an early close, we can also allow them time to digest it and not get upset if they have questions or buyer's remorse afterwards. But again, in sales, they also say, when someone's ready to buy, don't over talk.
Hmm.
Don't talk yourself out of a sale. So take the close when you can. But then, again, if you know yourself whether you pushed it
Hmm.
or if it was the client that wanted to close. So if
Hmm.
it's a client that wants to close, then yeah, I mean,
That's fine. Yeah.
stay quiet,
Hmm.
fulfill the obligation at that point.
Hmm.
And so that's what we want to do. We don't want them to feel remorse at the end of it. Like for me, I'm a quick buyer. If I like something and I want to buy it, no matter what the pricing is,
Hmm.
I just want it done quick.
Right.
And then even while I'm doing the close, then I'll just ask the questions. Oh, okay, by the way, and I'll just make sure everything's in line. And so typically a buyer, when they are, approaching a sale, they already know what they
Hmm.
want.
Can you just tell me your time that customer lost your trust? What happened and what did you do at that time to fix it?
Yeah, I mean, for us in logistics, definitely if there's a late delivery or a late pickup or a truck doesn't show up to pick up,
Hmm.
then definitely there's people that get frustrated. I mean, there was a time that we took a shipment from, Vancouver to New Jersey, and the customer in New Jersey, we were having a hard time getting a hold of the vehicle, and it ended up arriving late. And so when it arrived late, they had probably expectations about getting the stuff out to market and getting it delivered. And because of that small delay, they were extremely upset. So, they yelled at us and we took it. We took responsibility for it.
Hmm.
So even though they were upset and yelled at us, and after a while, they just said, okay, these guys totally owned up to their mistake and they were willing to, remedy whatever they could. And that customer ended up, being a really good customer of ours down the road and recommended us to even other customers. So it's about staying professional in that situation, understanding that if someone is being upset with us, they have
Hmm.
a right to be upset because they didn't receive what was promised to them. And if, again, if we take accountability for it and take responsibility for it, don't run away from it.
Hmm.
So it wasn't that, we hung up the phone or we said, hey, we can't talk to you about this. We understood that they're upset and they wanted to voice it. And we understand, people's jobs are on the line. There's multiple people that could be involved in one decision process
Hmm.
that we will take accountability for it. Yeah.
Lovely. So what do you do different right now because of that experience?
Definitely make sure we do customer service. Right? So that's the thing, is you just want to make sure you relay information as quick as possible. be proactive versus be reactive.
Mm,
And so when people are transparent, so that's why I call transparency. When people know ahead of time, they're more understanding. But if it's after the fact, then there's nothing that someone can do about it, and there's repercussions at that point.
mm,
And so we want to minimize any damages, minimize any losses, minimize any misinformation to somebody from the get-go so that we can get everybody aligned and on the same page. And so again, everything comes down to basic customer service. Just
mm,
understanding your customers in any business is really the main goal. The people that focus on the customer experience, that customer service, that customer even after treatment, after buying something
mm,
is the most important piece, is making sure that the customer ends up feeling well about the purchase that they made because you want them to come back.
mm,
If it's after a year, even after 5 years, 10 years, you want them to remember that experience so that, next time they think of somebody, that they'll think of you. And this happens a lot even when people move from company to company. Sometimes if they've had a good experience with you, even if they haven't worked with you,
mm.
they'll take you to that next company. And we've had that happen multiple times too.
Yeah, agree. Right now, many companies have a problem of facing, they are facing having that recurring the business, right? So according to you, that what turns that single customers the recurring business?
Yeah, so it's when they know you're thinking about them.
Mm,
So if someone knows that you're selfish and you're only in it for yourself, and you're not giving them that after service, the aftercare when you sell them something. Again, if they're having any sort of buyer remorse or they
mm,
feel like you were just transaction based versus relation based,
mm,
then yeah, I mean, what ties them together with you? There's nothing that's going to keep them there that's going to have that relationship. And for us, it's about creating great experiences for our clients or our customers, always showing appreciation for them. And the biggest brands will do this. They'll either offer friends and family discounts, they'll offer promotions to those people, they'll
mm,
put them into a customer satisfaction list or something, right? There's some ways that people will follow up because they realize like what that feedback means to them and what it means to make somebody feel special. And so I always say, regardless of who the customer is, they better feel like $1 million when they're dealing with you because that's what's going to make them want to buy. And if it's not
mm,
today, if you make them feel like $1 million, when they have that money, they still will come back. And that's what you want every experience to be, not to judge somebody for how small they are or how big they are, but to respect everyone equally. And that's going back to more spiritual laws or, just general humanity. But that's ethical business selling, is not to differentiate people and to make every experience a good experience, regardless of what someone's background is, regardless of how they speak, how they look, what their education background might be, what their financial background may be, anything, right? So you want to make
mm.
sure you treat people like a superstar and they'll come back, right? Because they respect that experience.
Okay, now imagine that if I'm a 22, I have no money, I don't have any networks, AI is everywhere. What's the first move in my next 30 days?
If you're 22,
Hmm,
well, well, I think, one is just find out what skill sets do I have?
hmm,
Do I want to get a job or what do I want to do? You just want to have clarity on what you want to do, what steps you want to take.
hmm,
But just remember that everything is possible. It's whatever we set our mind to. And then again, once we set our mind to something, then we'll find the solutions. Even if you're 22 and you want to get involved in AI, again, ask yourself the question of, do I want to start a company myself or can I help somebody start their company?
hmm,
So, for example, Samir here has a company. Maybe you just want to volunteer your services to help him build customers so you can get into the AI space. And so, again, you don't have to have money. You don't have to have a crazy background. And that's the one thing about sales is that every business requires it.
hmm,
And a lot of people don't like that aspect of doing it. So if you can come in and help somebody and at the same time you can learn from them, then
hmm,
that's a win-win partnership. And say, hey, I'm willing to do the sales with you. I don't have my education or I don't have any finances to my name, but I do have a little bit of time. Can I help you market your company out to different businesses in Colorado? Or maybe you get 50 people tomorrow, so you assign a state to each one,
hmm,
right? And you say, hey, you could help me, you could help me, you could help me. Hey, how many 22-year-old friends do you have? You know, maybe we could teach you all at the same time and give you a state that can be designated, and we could all win together.
mm,
And if you guys bring in the work, and then we'll do the projects and we'll share the profits together.
that's true. Do you feel any kind of in your career that maybe that you have numbers of salesperson in your company, that many salespersons that I'm very introvert, I'm not able to speak. At that time, what are the words that you are telling them that you can do the sales even that you are introvert if you are not speaking to any single person in your life?
Yeah, so that's my nature, is
You are
introverted.
introvert? Okay.
Yeah. So, but when it comes to work, I get extroverted
Okay.
because it's more about, okay, well, I believe in what I do and
Mm,
I believe in what I can do. And I've been through so much of it that it doesn't discourage me. I look at the positives
mm,
versus the negatives. And so the positives is, the earning potential. The positives is the interaction that I get to go meet great people, or I get to network with corporations. And for me, the excitement is, how many corporations can I get into? How many head offices can I go have meetings at? And so
mm,
it becomes the game, right? It becomes fun. And having those great experiences is what motivates me to go do sales. And so we always talk about like mindset. Mindset is the first one that we want to start with. Many people that are introverted can be great salespeople because they're better at just understanding people,
mm,
because they stay quieter. So they are able to read people a little bit better. They can understand what that person is going through. And same thing, they'll be straight to the point sometimes. And so you'll notice that different people will vibrate with different people at that different level according to where they are.
mm,
So let's say if I'm more, I can say, the new term was like ambivert, so it's like a mixture of introvert and extrovert kind of mixed in the middle, because,
mm, yeah, mm.
most times I'll be introverted, but then come to work, I'll be, okay, I have to
Extrovert.
perform,
Mm,
or I'm a leader. So people look at me for communication. And so I have to be in that position.
mm,
And so in that position, again, it just allows me to understand people a little bit better too. People that are similar to me. So it's hard for me to match an extroverted personality.
mm,
I just say, okay, hey, you're on a whole different level. You enjoy this a little bit too much. So, hey, go ahead. Just make sure you don't offend anybody. So for me,
mm,
it's always making sure that, if you're really extroverted, take time to listen to that client and really understand them. And so there's nothing wrong with being introverted. You just use whatever skill set you have to
mm,
do the best that you can. And people are going to match with you at any level. So people match with people even at beginner levels. So even if you're a beginner in sales, you'll match with other people that are just starting off in their job. As you become more experienced, now you can talk to more experienced people. So people will just always give you an opportunity. It's just a matter of who you find on the other side. And we don't know until we try who really is on the other side. You'll see brand new people at major corporations. And you'll be like, oh, wow, hey, man, glad to have this conversation. And it's like, oh, hey, you're learning? I'm learning too. Hey, let's talk. Let's see if we can help each other. And so again, really being honest with each other opens up those doors.
mm,
And I think, that's the thing. Sometimes people have fears. So when they enter a new position or they have a new job, sometimes they don't know it all at once. Maybe they want to be educated. And so you can find those situations where you can educate each other.
mm.
And so again, you just never know. Everyone's just a human being. And is you just have to have the courage enough to start that conversation.
Okay, last two questions. What do you wish that more people ask you about the sales? What was the questions that you wish?
Hmm. I'm usually more specific when it comes to it. For me, it's like, what's your motivation to do sales?
Mm,
Is the question that I would ask them,
mm,
that maybe I wish they would ask me, I guess, is what their motivation. What- and I wish people would tell me what their motivation is, because I really want people to start serving people and not doing it just for the money. And
mm,
that's usually one of the biggest things that I look for. Is this, like, for example, is your whole sales process all based on just your own ego and how much you can make and how much you can earn? Or is it going to have some level of service to the other person?
mm,
And that's what I always look for, is like, are you just doing it for yourself? Or are you doing this for other people. And so I really like to make sure that nobody gets hurt in that process. That if you're only in it for yourself, then you're not going to take care of the person that you're getting the money from. But I truly believe that if you're asking for money or if you're doing sales with anybody that's going to pay you or give you their time or anything like that, you don't take it for granted and that you really respect where that comes from and how hard people work to earn it. And that's, the bigger picture is that people are trusting you in that aspect, and it's your job to be honest with them and
Mm,
to deliver on anything that you say. Don't promise things that you don't even know about. And this is the thing that we see in sales a lot of times is people will promise everything. Yeah, 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 yeah. We could do that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been lied to so many times when it comes to sales, especially in tech. In tech,
I
it's like,
agree.
yeah, we could do this. Yes, we could do this. And I just realized that so many people that do tech sales don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
It's seriously, it was just so many experiences like that that I'm like, these guys say yes to everything. And so same thing happens in logistics. There's a lot of people in logistics too that just they're always like, hey, can we help you? We'll move anything from anywhere to anywhere. It's like, okay,
Mm,
well, and then you just know that they're not being truthful with you.
right.
And so a lot of people that are in that experience will be able to identify it right away and say, hey, we don't want to hear that you can do everything. We want to know specifically what you're good at, what's your niche, and then we'll talk because we
Mm,
know that we get all these people that say we can do everything, and then it's usually you get down to the truth of what they could really do.
right. Okay, let's have a rapid fire round. 10 questions, one word option, no explanation. Okay, whatever the first one you could come to your mind, just tell me. Cold call or cold emails?
Cold call,
Script or no script?
no script,
Free or paid?
free.
Hustle or strategy?
Pardon me?
Hustle or strategy?
Ooh, strategy,
AI or human?
human.
Close fast or close right?
Oh, close right,
Okay. Price or trust?
trust,
Talk or listen?
listen,
Loyal customer or new customer?
loyal customer,
Instinct or data?
both data.
I know that you get. I know the last question you're gonna be confused.
Yeah, definitely. Because a lot of times you want like instinct always guides you, and right as well. But then you also want to know the data. I'm a data guy. I like facts and numbers, and so definitely both.
Right. Right, right. Thank you so much for your feedback. And it's really a good thoughts that everyone can sales, and sales is really important. Doesn't matter that AI will replace the humans or not. Ultimately, you have to sell yourself, you have to sell your service, your products, everything is sales. Thank you so much for your giving this wonderful information. Thank you for being guest on the Samir Show.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.